I'm sure it wouldn't be a surprise if I were to say that Vermintide 2 isn't Fat Shark's only game. But other than Darktide and Vermintide 1, you may not be able to name any of the other games that Fat Shark has had a hand in, as none of them are as well known as these 3 games. From RPGs, to Wild West shooters, to puzzle games, and even zombie survival, Fat Shark has developed and published many different kinds of games throughout the years. Today, I would like to showcase one of Fat Shark's more recent games that you may not have heard of, as it definitely deserves to be given a chance. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a look into Dreadlands. Dreadlands is a turn-based tactical RPG set in a post-apocalyptic universe full of dangerous wildlife, bloodthirsty hunters, and people with an eccentric vocabulary. What the fuck is a twonk? Is that like another name for a twink? Did he just call him a twink? Dreadlands blends the style of tactical play that you would see in a game like XCOM with an art style similar to Borderlands to deliver a brutal and quirky game that you won't soon forget. Dreadlands is simple enough for players new to turn-based games to get into easily, while also blending familiar and new mechanics for experienced players to also get a unique experience. At the start of the game, you get your choice between 3 different factions to control, each coming with a specific boon and detriment that will affect how you play them. Tribekin are the religious zealots and melee specialists of the Dreadlands, preferring to get up close and personal to their enemies alongside the large beasts that they command. They have more healing at their disposal than other factions, but due to their zealous nature, they lack strong ranged options and will be at a disadvantage during ranged encounters. Scarbacks are the tanks of the Dreadlands, recently freed from slavery under the rule of the Light Wardens and more than willing to fight to rebuild their lost society. Scarbacks are tankier than the other factions and have abilities and mechanics that you won't see on any of the other factions, but have less overall movement speed and less healing options, which can make them more challenging to play in the long run. Lastly are the Scrappers, recently arrived to the Dreadlands for reasons that are unknown to all, even to the Scrapper clans themselves. They possess a good balance between ranged and melee strength and can hold their own in any fight they choose to pick, but their later upgrades and abilities come with specific downsides, making for an easier early game but a potentially more difficult late game. All 3 of these factions also start with their own set of tactics cards, which can be used as a free action during your turn in combat to turn the tide in the battle. There are general cards which you will see no matter which faction you pick, including one card whose name just sounds very familiar, although I can't really figure out why. But each faction will also start with tactic cards that are unique to them and offer different boons that complement their playstyle. Keep in mind, though, that this mechanic is not only given to you, as your enemies can and will use their own tactic cards against you. You only get 4 cards per combat, so be sure to use them wisely. Each faction will start in a separate biome with a different main quest and storyline to follow, although the end goal of all 3 factions is the same: fame and fortunes in the Dreadlands. To achieve this, you will first have to build up the fame and reputation of your clan, which can be done through main story quests and any of the side content available to you in the game. As you level up, you gain skill points to put into your different fighters, as well as the opportunity to either find or purchase different equipment, armor, guns, and melee weapons to outfit your fighters as you see fit. You'll also have the opportunity to upgrade your home base, which will give you other useful benefits that you won't find elsewhere, such as the ability to recruit stronger fighters or create new tactics cards to use out in the field. Lastly, if you're feeling a little nervous about taking on the Dreadlands by yourself, have no fear, as you can team up with another friend in online co-op to take on the Dreadlands together. So, now that we've covered what Dreadlands is and what the game has to offer, how does it actually play? In order to answer this, I'll separate this review section into 3 categories: the good aspects of Dreadlands that it does well, the neutral aspects that are so-so and maybe negatives for some people, and the bad that weigh the game down in the long run, before finally giving my overall opinion on the game. Starting off with the good, Dreadlands has a fairly large amount of content to partake in. Alongside main quests and side quests, you can seek out random encounters, various types of dungeons, with one of them being a full-on infinite dungeon crawl, different kinds of combat encounters with different win goals, PvP, and even the ability to run into an ambush. The map of Dreadlands is fairly large as well, with different biomes to explore that house different environments to fight in, as well as different trading outposts for you to gain reputation with and unlock the ability to purchase powerful weapons to use on your fighters. Speaking of weapons, there is an albeit small variety of melee and ranged weapons for you to choose from, but they each have their own pros and cons which allow you to build your fighters into the specific role that you want to. Weapons can also come in different rarities and with various properties which can be changed at your hideout for a price. Moving on to the neutral, the main questline of Dreadlands is a fairly bland and uninteresting story that so far has introduced nothing unexpected or new, although some of the side quests have been surprisingly funny in some cases. I've been playing as the Scrappers, who have a main questline that consists of kill these guys and collect these things so that we can become more powerful, with few variations from this formula, and with most of your enemies and allies being simply forgettable, serving no purpose other than to kill for a quest completion or to get from point A to point B. The combat of Dreadlands and its mechanics are straightforward and easy to pick up quickly, which can either be a good or bad thing depending on who you ask, but from what I can tell in my playtime so far is that none of the missions or combat mechanics change or evolve in any way, which might leave you bored if you don't enjoy repetitive gameplay. Lastly, I've heard reports that the difficulty of Dreadlands is highly inconsistent, with some fights being incredibly easy and others being impossibly hard, but I personally have not run into this issue and have found the game to be well balanced throughout my playtime thus far. And that's coming from a guy who played both XCOM games on Easy and Recruit and still rage quit after getting his ass kicked. And lastly are the more negative things regarding Dreadlands. The performance of the game is fine in some cases, but others the game will stutter and hitch while on a combat map for seemingly no reason, and usually won't stop until the combat is over, and sometimes it even continues into the next map. The stuttering doesn't impact gameplay that much since Dreadlands is a turn-based game of course, but it is still incredibly irritating when it happens 3 maps in a row. Speaking of maps, the maps for combat do change depending on the region you are in, but the actual map pool that exists for each region is very low, and after a couple of combats in a region, you're pretty much going to see every map that that region has to offer. I am still unsure if the map system for combat pulls from a pre-gened map pool or if it has a flavor of RNG to it where it'll spawn different objects and buildings to hide behind in random locations on the map, but I would lean more towards the former since I've never been able to pick out any differences when I've played on repeat maps, and all of the most recognizable landmarks spawn in the same place every time. So, what do I think of Dreadlands? Dreadlands is published by Fat Shark and developed by an indie company called Black Fox Studios, and it definitely shows. Dreadlands is fun for what it currently is, but due to its lackluster story, simplistic combat, and failure to innovate gameplay, veterans of the genre will most likely find themselves bored of the game after a short time frame. However, beginners and casual players will most likely enjoy their time in the Dreadlands much more, as the simplistic and easy-to-understand nature of the game allows for a much more relaxed experience and can easily be used as an introduction into the genre. At the current asking price of $25, I would say Dreadlands is a game you should check out if it's on sale and if you're newer to tactical turn-based games, or if you're just looking for a game to tide you over for a short while. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to pick up Dreadlands and try it for yourself, make sure to click on the Humble Bundle link in the description down below to support both charity and the channel at the same time. See y'all next time!